Yo, what up, Street Talks? Here, Kim. Alright, so another turbo thought. This thought is about individualism. So for so long, at least here in America, it's kind of a little bit ironic because in some ways we purport individualism, in some ways we actually don't. So for example, if you really think that America is about being individualistic, and if you call someone selfish in terms of calling them an evil, bad person, then actually we don't really believe in individualism. So for an individual to be able to pursue their own needs, their own wants, their own desires without the meddling of others is individualism. But if an individual decides to be individual, they're also called by society as being selfish, self-centered, or evil, effectively. So when you call somebody, hey, stop being so selfish, you're essentially saying, hey, quit being such an evil asshole who is despicable and is probably gonna go to hell if you're too selfish. Now, then it becomes a little ironic. People say, oh, people, it's all balanced. You gotta, first gotta take care of yourself. It's so like, you're getting all these mixed messages from society. And I'm like, yo, what is we to do about it? And my practical suggestion is, this is just like what I believe in, is individualism is good. Selfish is not evil, and even thinking about what's quote unquote good and evil, it's all subjective anyways, so let's not even think about what's good, evil, bad, not whatever. There's a Kanye line, it's like, I'm not mean, I'm just focused. I'm not mean, I'm just focused. And so even for me, I consider myself a hyper-focused. What I consider what I'm working on is very important and great to me, and whenever other people disrupt my flow, is probably one of the things that upsets me the most. And so, like, and then this is the irony. I personally feel like what I'm working on right now is far more important than what's in my lifetime, because I feel like I can empower future generations of humanity for long periods of time. And so I consider what I'm working on very grand and important, and whenever people call me selfish or self-centered or egotistical, blah blah vain, I'm like, yo, y'all just thinking way too petty, you're thinking too small. You gotta think about not even the big picture, but the big time, for us to zoom out and think about just the large swath of humanity. Let's not think about the now, let's think about like 300 years from now, 2,000 years from now, and so forth. So I think thinking 2,000 years from now is kind of a good one, because 2,000 years ago was when Jesus was around, and even before then, like 4,000 years ago, there were still some great civilizations out there. So, and for the most part, human DNA and biological whatevers hasn't changed and evolved that much in 2,000 years. So I think future generations will kind of be more similar than dissimilar. So in terms of thinking about our lives, essentially for us to only work on big, grand, important things, and not to worry about petty. So another thing that I've been reading from Lucretius on the nature of things. So it's kind of an interesting thought is, we humans, we care so much about petty gains and petty needs and petty wants and stuff like that, but maybe the secret to living the grandest, most epic life possible is to live the most maximally frugal life. Frugality is interesting too, because I think the word frugal comes from like fructus, or fruit. So to be frugal means to use your fruits wisely and not to squander your things. And assuming, let's say, human life, let's say it caps out 120 years, no matter how much money you got, you cannot add to the maximum human lifespan. So like, I could earn another $100 or $1,000 or $10,000, but I cannot add another year to my maximum lifespan. So even if I was a trillionaire, I cannot magically use my $1 trillion to add another 30 years to the maximum human lifespan, which is around 120 right now. So even if I was a trillionaire, I can't live to be 150 years old, effectively. So I think this is a really important notion for us to think about, because frugality means, so I'll just tell you what I do, right? Nowadays with COVID, I don't even go to coffee shops no more. all I spend my money on is meat, right? So we'll buy, you know, chicken leg quarters, all the fatty good stuff for 99 cents a pound. We could buy ham or pork leg, something like that, for like 79 cents a pound. And then when you buy beef, it's usually like $4.99 a pound or $6.99 a pound or whatever. So all I do is eat meat, drink coffee, and nowadays I'm just drinking Dunkin' Donuts coffee and some cheap stuff because I don't really care anymore. I just need the caffeine. And what do I do all day? All I do is lift weights, I work out, I blog, I vlog, I walk in the streets and stuff like that. And I think, I talk to Cindy, talk to friends and family, and that's pretty much it. So I have a very simple life, and I don't know, maybe the good thing about COVID is it's insanely simplified our lifestyles, because I think for the most part, consumerism is a huge distraction and it complicates our life. So now that we got consumerism out of the way, life is just hyper simple, and I think people just don't know how to live a simple lifestyle, and people probably don't want to live a simple lifestyle either. But I think there's so many benefits of living a simple lifestyle, in which living a simple lifestyle, it essentially forces you to focus on what you really care about. Because I don't know, I think most people would prefer to create art, you know, art in a metaphorical sense, like, you know, creating art in terms of making videos or writing or photographing or blogging, vlogging, whatever it may be. And yet society distracts us by telling us that, oh, you have to, you know, buy more stuff, go shopping, watch movies and stuff like that. I'm like, yo, all the time we spend watching movies, what if you use that time to make your own movies? Or like another thought too, a lot of us like these these superhero movies where you got like buff guys fighting bad guys. I'm like, yo, if you took the same time, just let's say a 1-to-1 ratio, if for every hour or hour and a half you spend watching an action movie, spend an hour and a half working out, lifting weights, doing a bunch of push-ups or squats, certainly that would be much more fruitful, because you would start to look like a superhero. And isn't that the goal? Doesn't everyone want to become a superhero or look like a superhero? That seems like actually a lot more practical of a life goal, rather than to passively watch other people. So, because in some ways, when you watch an action movie or a superhero movie, it's a little bit pornographic. You're seeing another superhero do the superhero stuff rather than you doing it yourself. It's kind of like porn. This is like the reason, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with porn, but the issue with porn is you're watching somebody else fuck somebody else instead of you doing the real thing. And now with social distancing, obviously, unless you're in a relationship, you can't really do that. But this is what I find really sad, is that like in a lot of relationships and couples, you know, some individuals, some guys would prefer to watch porn than make love to their wives or their partners or whatever. So yeah, I think it's important for us to think about not living so pornographically, and for us to rather live, for us to become the hero of our lives. Okay, so another thought I've been having too. So imagine if COVID-19, let's say, like I've actually been watching a lot of these like end of the world movies or these zombie apocalypse movies or vampire movies, and the thing that I find super funny about it is, obviously you watch these end of the world movies, they're like a trillion times worse than what we're experiencing COVID-19, right? So I'm like, man, if they made a movie based on COVID-19, it'd be so lame, right? Like, what is people doing? People's just, you know, buying toilet paper, or, you know, staying home all day. This would not be a very interesting movie at all. And so, you know, it's essentially the good thing about watching these disaster movies, ironically enough, is it actually encourages me. It gives me more courage. It gives me more bravery, because I'm like, yo, like, no matter how bad life is right now, it's not as bad as what people have suffered in these other films. Or like, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio, The Revenant, seeing what Leonardo DiCaprio had to go through the insane cold and almost getting killed by a bear, blah blah. That's like a trillion times worse than me, like, you know, sitting at home being afraid of getting the flu or getting really sick or whatnot. So I think, and also even really reading the Iliad, you know, the Trojans and the the Greeks at war, they're killing each other.
Caution, bus is turning.
So essentially they're all killing each other, right? And it's insane, like in just a very short spear's throw, right? Hector or Achilles or Diomedes or anybody kills a dude in like half a second, in like a second or two, and then boom, they're dead. And at least with us, like, you know, living through COVID times, I mean, you know, obviously there's a chance that you might die, right? But we're still not living through a war, which at least gives me some hope that, you know, things will be okay. Yeah, I think Shepard Fairey's back in town in Providence. I see a lot of his obey stickers, or I don't know, either that or he's got a posse doing the works for him. So essentially, I want to live my life, me, Eric Kim, to live my life like I was a Greek hero. Certain things, I want to bodybuild myself to look like the physique of a Greek god. Achilles, Odysseus, Heraclitus is kind of the goal. And I want to exhibit my courage as much as Achilles without the pettiness and the anger and the sadness, I suppose. And so yeah, it looks like in life, maybe one of the effective life strategies is you essentially treat yourself like a Greek hero. And what does it mean to be a Greek hero is that you suffer tragedy. Even Achilles is told at the beginning of his life that you're going to live a short life, and that's kind of predetermined for him. And it's just kind of sad because, well, this is what I find interesting about Greek tragedy is that rather than tragedy as being such a bad thing, they tend to see tragedy that despite all this tragedy, pain and suffering, life is still beautiful, life is still worth it, and life is still gorgeous. So thinking about pain and suffering, often it's a blessing. Like I know for myself, all the pain, tragedy, and struggles I had to go through as a child actually made me who I am, and it made me tougher. And even other things which I'm kind of grateful for. So this is just other practical things like lifting weights, intermittent fasting and stuff like that. It actually is painful, but it actually makes you become more. Like as a consequence of lifting weights, intermittent fasting and stuff like that, I've dropped my body fat percentage, I've increased my muscle mass, and I'm eating a shitload of meat now. And there's actually been a lot of upsides for COVID-19 for myself. So for example, it's made me less distracted by capitalism and consumerism, because you know, like I've always been a gadget tech nerd my whole life, and so you know, every day, several times a day, I don't even know why I do this. I'll go to the apple.com website, scroll through for a second, tesla.com website, scroll through. Don't forget our homeboy Marcus Aurelius, these beautiful cherry blossom trees. So I've always been addicted to technology, and this is one of the bad things with consumerism, is that it essentially is in very much a way a discouraging thing. So you remember like when the new iPhone came out, or the iPhone 4S, or the iPhone 5, or the 5S, or the 6, the 6S, the 7, the 8, the 10, the 10S, and now the 11 and the 11 Pro. So every step of the way, it kind of discourages you because you feel that I can never become self-actualized because I don't have the best tools at my disposal. And this is where I think phones are a little bit overrated, where if you want to really, really create epic artworks, you don't need a super expensive phone to do it. You could just use even basic equipment. Like even for vlogging, you could just use a GoPro. You could buy a GoPro for what, like, you could probably buy a used GoPro for like, what, 50 bucks, 100 bucks? Even the new GoPro, you could buy one for what, 350 bucks, 400 bucks, whatever it may be. And then consider a new iPhone is like over 1,000 bucks now. And so this is like one thing I do advocate for, is that maybe if you want to focus on creation and making stuff, having kind of like standalone devices seems like kind of a good idea. So for example, I'm recording this on a Lumix G9, and I have the Leica Lumix 12mm 1.4 lens, which is effectively a 24mm lens. I have the Rode video mic with the Windjammer on top. And the reason I like the setup is because it allows me to street vlog, where I just walk the streets. Nice brown campus. I think brown is better than Harvard. Yo, check out this tree. And yeah, other reasons why I really like vlogging on this is that even though it's super duper windy, I mean, it doesn't do perfectly the job, but at least having this Rode video mic with the Windjammer, it's got the little fuzzy dead rat thing on top. So at least, essentially, it just gives me more courage in terms of walking around and knowing that even though the audio and the wind's not super great, it still allows me to do kind of what I do. And then also what I love about it is, while I'm recording video, I can actually shoot still photos. And also, like right now I'm recording this at 1080p 60 FPS. So for the most part, I can actually record for a long time. I think at least 20 minutes. Well, this is beautiful, huh? Okay, so this is another thing that's been personally helpful to me, is thinking about the whole one take thing, and thinking that not aiming for perfection or making things good, it's just having fun with it, to be genuine, to enjoy the walk and stuff like that. And even now, like whenever I would just want to get out of the apartment, I just grab my camera and I just go for the walk. And I go for the walk for the sake of the walk. And I'm actually not even sure what I'm going to talk about, but usually this is the irony. Once you start walking and then creative ideas come to you, I think this is actually more robust than waiting until you have an idea and then going out for a walk and creating. So this is where I find walking the ultimate creative stimulus. Once you start walking, then all the creative ideas start to come to you. I love libraries. So, yeah, it looks like the library's closed. Good old John D. Rockefeller. Inspired Jay-Z. So, oh wow, the sun looks really nice now. Yeah, so that's why I would suggest, friends, if you want more creative inspiration and motivation, just go on a walk, in the video vlog the thoughts that come to your head, or just, you know, if you go on a walk with your phone, just go on a walk, enjoy the walk, take some photos along the way, and if you get a creative idea, just jot it down in your notepad, and just realize that the great joy of life is walking.